Excellent. Well, hello, first generation wealth builders from scratch. We are really excited to have our really special guest here. This is Wade McCrory. McCrory. Always try to forget that first R in there. Uh, Wade is a really amazing young man. And when I say young man, I'd love everybody to guess how old is he? Because he looks 16 in the you already get called young anyway, and
Oh yeah, it's
dropping it down
constant.
anyway. Yeah, he's actually 21 years old. He's just started he's had a series of, you said, like smaller businesses since you were 8 years old, and so your entrepreneurialism started kind of early, and
Mhm.
then you got a really great business that's been really neat, that I'm hoping you'll share, and then I believe starting today, you started a second business. And so we'd love to hear more about that too. But more germane to our conversation, Wade and I talked last week for the first time, and he actually, Susan Sheehan, recommended Wade to us and said, here's a great guy. He'd be great to talk to especially the younger people that are there for, obvious reasons. And so we got a chance to talk last week, and he's got a lot of impressive stuff going on, including before you were a business owner that you are now, you did some pretty exciting things for Chick-fil-A. And so I'd love it if you'd share about that and about your customer service expertise, and then more about what you're doing now.
Of course, I would love to. So I guess we'll start back when it all started. I was about 8 years old. I have super bad ADHD. I'm all over the place. I wouldn't even call it ADHD. I can't focus on anything. And it really isn't focus. It's just I have a lot to say, and it could be about 1,000 different things. And I can't sit still. And so when I was little, my parents would, like, I grew up on a ranch. And so we were constantly outside doing stuff. And like, I was always used to being active. And so in the winters, when it would get, would slow down, I would lose it because I was trapped in this house. And I wasn't a video game kid. Like I didn't really enjoy that. I liked being outside. Like I really did enjoy, I wasn't a sports guy either. Like I've always been this little, so sports wasn't my thing either. Until like high school when I started playing golf. But other than that, it would, you know, all I had to do was work outside. The first thing I started was beef jerky, actually. Um,
Really?
yeah, so my great grandfather used to make beef jerky when he passed away when I was I think 4 or 5. And there was this recipe that I found, and it was his, and everybody always raved about it, and I never had it. And so I made it, and then I was like, I could sell this to people. And so I started making it when I would get home from school, and then I would like sell it to our neighbors. And I was like the newspaper route, like going up and down the
Wow.
street selling this beef jerky to cars, and I would stop them. And yeah, it was a whole thing. I got in a lot of trouble when I was little. Um,
I just bet. I think that's a really interesting aspect of your life, and probably, wouldn't you say, part of the reason why you're so successful, you're so young and so ambitious now, is because you really did start with an entrepreneurial mindset very young. Would you agree with that?
yeah, I mean, I at the time, obviously, I didn't know that's what it was. I actually didn't, surprisingly enough, did not find out that I had that mindset until my second year of college. I didn't realize that's what it was. Like I just thought I liked business, but the colleges always tell you like, it's finance or it's accounting or it's supply chain management or business management. And so I started in finance. No, not happening. Was not my thing. And then tried business management. I enjoyed it a lot more, but it still just wasn't like, just I still felt locked down. I don't like being locked down. It makes me really uncomfortable. But not like an uncomfortable growing way. Like just, I feel
Trapped.
trapped, and I don't like feeling that way. So that's when I realized that college wasn't for me, dropped out. And then just kind of pursued this dream. And, it started with beef jerky. Then like middle school, I had a big garden, right? 15-year-old me did not have much money. And so I could get like 1,000 cucumber seeds for a few dollars at the farmer's
Ooh.
market. And so I went out and bought all these seeds, and I asked, there was this piece of grass between our neighbor's house and our house. And this is like after my parents divorced. It was like just me and my dad. And he was getting tired of me. He was like, go away, like go outside or something, like leave me alone, go find something to do. And so that was my out. And so I planted this huge garden and grew cucumbers and learned how to pickle. And I started pickling cucumbers and tomatoes and all kinds of stuff. And then I would go to the farmer's market on the weekends, on Saturday mornings, and I would sell these. I even had like a glass jar exchange program. And I mean, it was a whole thing. I mean, it got out of hand.
Yeah, you get
Then
elaborate.
COVID hit.
Gotcha.
Yeah, COVID hit. And so that was a whole, I mean, then we started doing like, I mean, it was just me, but I started doing these boxes where people paid like $35 a week and they got a box of vegetables and stuff like that because nobody wanted to go to the store. So it's fresh veggies and fruits, then they could pick up at the local school district admin building in the parking lot, and I would hand them their box, and then they would give me their box from last week, and I would do it again the next week. So
wow. And that was your business?
Yeah. I mean, it got me through that part of, those couple of years when I needed something to do. I was also working for Chick-fil-A at that time, and started there when I was 15. Was just a team member and fell in love with it. And I think the biggest thing there, and the biggest thing I advised my team to do by the time I left was like, if you enjoy it, you're not limited. Like, don't feel like you're limited. Like, you can learn anything you want to learn here. So go learn it. And I think this is where a lot of people, kind of, they have a misinterpreted perception of that aspect of things. And there is not anybody on this world that is, purposely trying to halt your progression unless they just have an absolute, they're out for you. But at that point, you shouldn't even be around them in the first place. So it should be a problem. But
yeah, I'm sure you'll hit some of this more when you talk about networking and how you were financing some of the stuff you're doing. I found that to be true too, even just like, for example, the fact that you're here right now. And there's a book that's been my favorite this year about house hacking. And so I contacted the author of it and said, would you come and meet with, us, on this evening? And it took him about 2 weeks to get back with me. And he said, sure. And I'm like, well, who would have thought that would happen? I mean, I think, the Bible says you have not because you ask not. And I think there's just been so much of my life that I have not asked. And I think you're finding people really do want to help, don't they?
They do. I mean, it's, if I'm super big on like how our bodies are chemically wired. I've been researching that a lot the last year or so, trying to understand, like, why do I think the way I do compared to somebody else? And is it a trauma response from something that happened in my past? Is it, are the other people reacting from trauma? Is it something that's ingrained permanently in everybody? It's just some people don't know where it's at or how to harness it. I've been very fascinated about all of that. And it's a human characteristic. It's just like other mammals, when the moms have cubs. I mean, the instinct is to take care of that thing, and then to take care of the people around them, the pack around them. And as humans, we're wired the same exact way.
Very interesting. I'm glad we circled back around to children. Like with my children, I've encouraged that in them, which you kind of came about, you internally motivated, it sounds like, to make the beef jerky and to do the cucumbers and to do the food boxes at a young age. I've always really thought that entrepreneurism is amazing and essential. And so I have 4 children, and I remember my Cole, who is 19 now, but he illegally sold candy bars and those fidget spinners whenever they first came out, right, at the school. And he made over $400, doing that.
We had a kid like that in middle school. He sold on Fridays. He had a popcorn machine in his locker in the 8th grade hallway, and he would sell bags of popcorn out of his locker.
That's hilarious.
Fridays after school. And so he only had so much, so you would race there to get it because it was only 50 cents. And finally the school caught on. So we
Uh,
moved locations, but it was like, yeah, I mean, it's so fun to see that stuff. It's, if you just, what the thing about saying with Chick-fil-A is it taught me that the answers are out there and the possibilities and opportunities are out there, but it's just like what you said, you have to go ask. I mean, it's not very, very seldom does somebody come to you and say, hey, I want to give you this opportunity. It's, I want, if I'm in that position, I would feel the same way. Like, I'm not just going to hand you an opportunity. Like, I don't know if you're interested. I don't know if you're truly and authentically interested. Now, if you're coming to me saying, hey, I have this idea, hey, I want to do this. Do you know somebody, or have you dealt with this before? Like, that's what would spark my mind to go, okay, you want to be involved with this. It's not me coming to you, not even knowing you really at that level, and proposing something, right?
well, you're showing a willingness and a motivation. And I think that for people, especially accomplished people that have figured something out, right? They really do want to pass. There's this, especially once you've achieved something, there's this, it's built into our developmental psychology, is we want to have a legacy. We want to pass that on. We don't want just that information or that secret, to die with us. We want to show other people how to do that. I think it's kind of in us, to be able to do that for our children, but it expands. And especially if you got somebody like you, that comes to them and goes, I want to do this, and I'm motivated by that. And I'm like, let me help you. I will help you with that.
I mean, that's and before I forget to respond to this, thank you so much, Amy. I just saved the link and I will be looking at that after this. But yeah, but when I first started, I mean, it was real rough. I mean, let me tell you, it was really, I'm not saying it's not, it's more difficult now, but back then I had no experience with it. And so it felt like the world was falling down around me. I didn't really have any support from my parents at the time, like when I went to school, and, I was on my own pretty early when all my friends in college were, being supported by their families. And so I was like trying to do school and trying to work and trying to, pay live somewhere. And it was a lot. And then I was like, you know what, I'm not doing this. I can't do it anymore. Like, this is miserable. And so that's when I started the first company. I was off the stuff I learned with Chick-fil-A, just by asking to learn more things. And, 15, I was just a team member. And then by the time I left last July, I made it up to an executive director position, within one of the Southwestern region here. And
so tell them more about that, because that's fascinating to me. You would have been only like what, 20, how long you started that position when you were 20? 19?
No, so I started there when I was 15. By the next year, I was 16, and I was promoted into like an assistant manager position.
Wow.
And then literally it's like 4 or 5 months later of that next year, I was promoted to a director, of a specific department. And that would not have happened. That was just because, solely based on the fact that no one knew my age, right? Because Chick-fil-A on applications, especially when you're doing internal roles, Chick-fil-A doesn't look, they don't want you putting an age on there. And so you just have to agree that you're over the age of 16. So they didn't know how old I was, but from me, that was all the material that this position required, was the material that I had been studying and learning, because I found it very interesting from the time I started. And nobody else in my region or my restaurants I was the restaurant I was working at, knew anything about it really.
Was that the customer service focus that you had?
So it started out as food safety and quality.
Oh, okay.
And then Chick-fil-A actually merged both programs together because they do fit. I mean, they collide perfectly. Because if the food isn't good, then the experience isn't good. And if the food's not safe, then it's also not good. So
You and I have that in common. We have I moved down to Valdosta from Illinois to enter the Chick-fil-A's internship program to be able to have my own store. It was my ambition. And I arranged, for me to get a job here actually before I left. And so it was, after working in a store for a little while, I was like, okay, I don't really think this is a good fit, for me. But in that time though, I got to go to Atlanta. I got to meet Truett Cathy in his, what they called the $10 million treehouse at the time. I'm sure they call it a $30 million treehouse now, but but it's really cool.
Treehouse now.
Yeah. It's but just incredible people, incredible training. I'm just so glad that you had that experience. And so that really sets you up for having the right kind of mindset to have, I would imagine, to say, like, quality in what you do next, and then really focusing on the customer's experience. Is that right?
Oh yeah, I wouldn't say Chick-fil-A was the prime, the main primer for that. It's more of like how my personality is. Like, I think that was another reason why I even got the position in the first place, because I was 17 when I got it.
Wow.
That's just, I drove people nuts behind the counter and in back of house in the kitchen, because I was constantly worried.
Go to corporate.
Yeah, I was constantly worried and concerned about everybody in the dining room, like, and then in the drive-through, like, oh, why in the world are we at 3.5 minutes? Why are we holding? Why was that lady's knife, her cutlery kit was not on why did you not put on the tray? Like, it was, I analyze everything. And so I think they ended up getting tired of me saying, hey guys, like, let's come on. Like, you didn't make eye contact and share a smile with that person. So finally Chick-fil-A was like, okay, so you're obviously the person for this. Go do it and make it better. And so I did. I loved it, every second of it. And that's just my personality. Like, I want to make sure, which, has had its downturns. I have recently experienced of, I've always taken care of everybody else before I took care of myself. And so it got to a point about 6 months ago where it took me down, that's for sure. And so it was a good learning, it was a good lesson. We learned from it, was coached through it, and we moved through it. And so now completely different, right? I mean, just because you're not always putting other people first doesn't mean it's not a bad thing, right? Because if I'm not operating my full capability, and I am telling myself that I'm happy, but really I'm exhausted, right? You're really not doing any type of service to anybody. So you have to make sure that your body, you yourself, your body is optimized, and that you are concerned about, you, right? And a lot of, I say that to people my age, when I go speak at high schools and stuff, and a lot of them will be all passive aggressive and tacky about it and be like, that's so selfish. And it's like, yeah, okay, bud, like, like, whatever. Selfish is a completely different thing, right? So when you're serving other people in that manner, it's a completely different thing. So I've always been service hearted. Like, I love talking to people. I used to not be like that, surprisingly enough, but I grew out of it. I don't know how I even did. It just kind of happened, it seems like, but now I love hearing people, just talk and communicate. And, I crave the emails that we get, that are giving us problems. Like, I love it. And the whole team hates it. Like, they're like, oh, we messed up. And it's like, no, this is good. Like, nobody has ever given us this feedback before. So either maybe people were scared, maybe, we don't know. So let's just work on this. So I would much rather get the negative feedback than the positive, because I love hearing people talk. Like,
I appreciate that too. I'm a big surveyor. I like to ask people, well, what was your experience like? And I plead with them. I don't grow. We have an Airbnb, and so Airbnb has built-in surveys in it. But
mhm,
but I plead with our folks that stay with us and say, I can't grow if you don't give me feedback. Your feedback's very
yeah.
important to me. So I always send them. It's kind of a cheat with Airbnb, by the way, too. Is I send them a Google form with a survey that I created. So if they have anything ugly to say, they kind of vent it out on that, and then they end up giving me a better rating on
So they
Airbnb.
get to vent. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a little, but I always love to read those and respond to them, and we immediately adjust as soon as we get some good feedback. That's great. So part of this particular module that you're speaking into is about how to optimize your income, with where you are now. And so a lot of our folks are, working somewhere else right now. Can you speak into that from a customer service frame, and then also how that kind of sets you up for starting a business, side hustle, something in the future too?
Um, so like I said, it's really a at heart thing. Like I love serving other people. And even if it's not something that I know how to serve on, most of the time I go learn how to do it because I know the other person's not, and come back and do, help them through it. But if not, I try to find people that I do know that, know how to do X thing, or serve people in that manner, and kind of make that, that cross collateral, connection. And it just, other than it really is. It's one of those just internal instinct things. Like, I I want everybody to have a perfect experience. Um, I love to stand out, just like we were talking about before the call.
With your
I
bow
love,
tie?
yeah, I love to wear bright colors. I have one suit that I always wear, this fedora. I can't stand fedoras, but I do it because I know people will see it and it'll make me stand out in the room. Um, it looks like I'm like at a 50s ballroom dance, that suit does.
Yeah.
And it's like my favorite suit in the entire world. Oh my gosh, I love it. But um, but yeah, it's just like, and Chick-fil-A did get that out of me, like bringing to light that I love the experience of things, because especially entrepreneur mind, like you experience one minor inconvenience and it's like, okay, this has to exist, and then you go try to find it and it doesn't, and then that mindset kicks in and it's like, okay, I have to solve this problem because nobody else is taking the time to do it, and I sure don't want to deal with it anymore. So it's
I think that's a good segue for, like, how did you get into your first business? Because that was a big problem solving for yourself, wasn't it? Why don't
mhm,
you catch us up
yeah.
with where you are now?
So that actually feeds right off of customer experience too, because there, when I go somewhere, right? When I choose to go to a place of business, or I choose to um, spend time with certain people, or have lunch or dinner, whatever it is, go shopping somewhere. Um, like, I expect that when I walk in there, somebody acknowledges me, because I have 1,000 other options, right? I live in Dallas, Fort Worth. There's 8 million people here. 7.7 or 7, yeah, 7.7 million people here. I guarantee you there's other shops that I could go to, or other restaurants I could go to. And I chose to come to yours. So I expect to be treated that way, because without anybody coming, then you don't have a job or a business. So that customer experience is a huge for me, right? Because without that, then nobody does anything, right? And if you're not happy with, if you go places and you never find somewhere you're happy to go, then why would you go anywhere? So it's just like, I don't like low standards like that. But um, that was exactly where the first company, like the first real one, right, that was legal and registered with the state, was Premier Outdoor Movies. And I was in a fraternity in college, and I was external vice president. So I was in charge of external events. So things that we did with the fraternity and another organization, whether it be the church, or another frat or sorority, or certain college at the university. local foundation, whatever it was. And so I was in charge of planning these events and putting them together and everything. I love event planning. So, and decorating, that's one of my favorite things. So I saw this thing on, it was an Arkansas University sorority post. Because the university I went to is really close to Arkansas for some reason. We're nowhere near them, where I went to school, but apparently we're really close to them for some odd reason. But we had friends that met them at a football game and saw her post something. And I was like, that would be a great external event. And it was an outdoor movie. But it did kind of look janky. And that's not really me. And I was like, I don't do things halfway. It's like, if we're going to do this, we're going to do it right. There's got to be somebody who can put a screen up that's not sideways and that looks good. So I started looking, and I, started calling people, emailing people, and it was like all these quotes came back and they were ridiculously priced. And it was either I had to go pick stuff up and I had to put it up. And I wasn't really the techie guy at that point. I had no idea how to do that. And I'm trying to run an event. I don't have time to sit here and put up a screen.
All right.
And then the other ones were like, oh yeah, we'll come drop it off, but like, you got to pick it up and you got to bring it back to us after the event. And it's like, no, I'm not doing that either. So I started searching, kind of more broad, like, okay, who did Arkansas use? They used a company like that, but then they had one of the frats come and set it up. And I was like, there's no reason this should be happening. Like, how, I don't even know how people are doing it, because it's not just, you put some air in it and it blows up into the air. I mean, there's certain positions the stakes have to go, and projector settings and audio settings. And then you start realizing that the equipment they use is not good. But you're paying a high quality price. So that's where Premier Outdoor Movies was born. I was very frustrated with that because it was just a total mess. And we ended up going with a company, and it was a disaster. So that was when I was like, okay, let's start looking into this. Let's just see the options. And then 4 months later, there comes the idea. And I actually just told this story last week to somebody, and it was to actually a group of high schoolers in a mentorship program.
That's cool.
And the story was, this is why Amy, why that book caught my attention, was there was an author there at this event, and I was telling this story, and it's called 4 Days, is what I call the story. And it was the 4 days between the time that I was literally out of money, by myself in Lubbock, Texas, out of all places, with my real estate company. It was not doing good. And then I tapped out. Like, I was pretty much gave up and was like, I'm done. Like, I don't know who else to go to. I don't know else. Like, I don't know what else to do. And I tapped out for 4 days. Like, I didn't do anything. And it was like beginning of summer. And finally, like, I got over myself. And if anybody knows anything about when you talk about hyperactive minds, and yeah, I have mixed feelings about all that stuff with ADHD, and I think it's totally overdiagnosed. And I think there's other things that are involved. I don't think it's really just this one particular disability per se, but I've been diagnosed with it for a really long time. I don't think I have that particular thing, because I really don't have a focus issue. It's my mind will not stop. It never does. That's why, like, I'm going on almost 2 days awake right now, just because my mind, it just doesn't stop. And it got worse since I got in business, because I constantly thinking about how can we better the experience? How can we, what else can we offer? Like, how can we appreciate our clients more? And how can we express gratitude? So how can we help our team? It's just my mind's constantly trying to figure out the next world's solution. But it started going. And I was so taken by it because it was the worst it had ever been. And it just kept snowballing over and over and over and over again. It's like the anxiety would build up and then I would crash again. And then it looked like a really good stock market run is really what it looked like. It was up and then down and then up, the anxiety would shoot. It was awful. But finally at that fourth day, all of a sudden, all those feelings went away and I was perfectly fine. And I was like, what in the world is going on? And all my friends were like, are you good now? And I said, I guess so. I'm not upset anymore. Don't know what I'm going to do though. And it was when I got that clear mind, I was like, Premiere, like, why am I not trying to do something with this? And so I did. It was 4 days and I did. I literally told my parents, I told my friends, which I really don't really talk to my parents much, but I had one phone call with my dad about all of it. And I just said, like, listen, dude, I'm done. He was like, you got to try harder. And that was the only conversation I had with him. He was no help. But my friends said the same thing. They were like, you'll figure it out. And I'm like, that doesn't help me. But it was, I collapsed. And I tell people that all the time. And, it's not a moment that I regret. It's not one of those things that I'm ashamed of. I've talked about it on my talk show before. I've talked about it on other people's shows before. I've talked about it in press releases and I'm very vocal about it. And people do, attack me about it. But it's one of those things where, like, if it wasn't for those 4 days, nothing else would have happened. Like, if I wouldn't have shut down and just taken a step back, like, my body forced me to pull back. If it wasn't for that, like, nothing would exist. And our product and service wouldn't exist either. And that product and service has now grown tremendously. And, pretty much every dollar we make within the company either goes back to some sort of foundation. It goes to our team for, training and development, or education, or other nonprofit foundations. So, like, Premiere has I've never taken a cent from Premiere, actually, to date. Have never took a dollar from it, because it wasn't that moment in those 4 days was when I realized that the 4 days was when I realized that the big question of, why. And I always thought it was money, as any 20-year-old would think. And it was always about the money. Like, I'm going to get a Chick-fil-A because, an operator makes 1.2 million a year on average. And, I'm going to go get this finance degree because I can get a job at this place and make 180,000. And even though I'm going to be unhappy, I don't care. I have my boat and my house, whatever. And then once I started doing stuff, I realized I was like, that's like, I'm having 10 times more fun and I'm 10 times happier. And I'm enjoying life so much more just doing what I love doing. Like, this is what I love doing. And it's so much more fulfilling. And so that customer experience really just comes down to, once you figure it out, right? Because everybody has their, like, I'll end this question with this, because this is pretty much, it puts it all into one bubble. Once you find that thing that you really enjoy and that you love doing, and that, yes, the money, it helps, right? It reduces stress. It allows you to do more things, allows you to help more people, provides comfort. But there becomes a point where it doesn't do anything else for you. And, like, I'm a pretty simple person, other than, being extra with the clothes. But it took, I think, 3 months once I found that thing that I just knew I was good at and that I enjoyed, and that was customer experience. And, we ended up being able to, our first raise was $40,000. It was, for a raise, that's not much all. And I had no idea how I was going to start this company with that money, but we made it work. And we were able to create this experience. And so with having to stretch every penny we had, I had to make sure that during that startup phase, every single client felt cared for, felt loved, felt heard, felt like that their event wasn't just another event on a Thursday night. It was an event that XYZ person went to and they built a relationship with. And so like all of our events now, for the most part, once they get a technician from our team that, you know, serves them at an event, they're usually that technician is with them the entire lifetime of that account.
Oh, wow.
So like I don't think actually I would have to, like, to be 100% positive, look at the numbers, but I'm 90% positive we've never had a client not request their previous technician before.
And that's
I
really
think
good.
all of them are still on the same accounts that they started with whenever we opened. So,
That's
you know, these
excellent.
people don't need all these movies. These, you know, they're making events up. Like they just enjoy the environment because everybody really is in the same boat. Like everybody wants to feel heard. Everybody wants to hear, like everybody wants to feel loved. Everybody wants to feel, you know, comforted. And if you don't get that, then it looks like you're the only one that's not suffering. But you start looking at the numbers and you start talking to people on that level and start building that kind of relationship, because I did the same thing. I realized that everybody was looking for the same thing. And the people that were coming after me saying that I was the bad guy, and saying that I was trying to, you know, make a scene or gain attention, they were the ones who were struggling the most. And those are the ones that I actually went after to try to help. And two of them actually are now like some of my closest friends. And it's all, whenever stuff like that happens, it's all out of hurt, internal hurt.
Yeah, that's good.
And it's, like I said, I could go on about that stuff forever. I absolutely love it. Like,
Well, I could too. I'm a counselor, but yeah,
I absolutely love it. But at the end of the day, yes, experience, you know, if
it's really
whether
neat.
it's relational or it's business or it's casual,
There's
if
there's an established expression, you know, hurt people, and I always like to add to it, but healed people can heal people. So
100%,
yeah.
yeah, and it might take a lot more, but it does work.
Well, that's cool. And I love that in your story. To frame my next question for you, let me say that since we both know Susan, and Susan introduced me to JT, and to be able to go to JT's to me it was like I just sat back and watched. There's a project that I want to fund. Most of the people here know that I want to have a larger glamp site for our glamping business, and so I attended. It was like Shark Tank on a Zoom call to me. And so is that how you did your funding, or you went through
Yep.
through JT's organization?
Yep.
So that's probably something like that. You know, everyone's probably, most of the people listening to me are at the beginning of this process, right? So they're not quite ready to think about like funding and stuff, but they need to wrap their head around how that happens, right? And so for you, how did you first go, okay, I need money for Premiere, and then how'd you get connected to JT, and then what was that process like?
So it actually was total coincidence the way it happened. It was whenever I actually started in real estate. I joined an online real estate school in Nevada. And it wasn't even like I didn't even get my license. I just went to learn real estate and or joined it to do real estate because it's online. But I met this lady, her name was Joy, and she lived in Florida. And I don't even know how we ended up crossing paths, but we ended up crossing paths, and she was already a part of the group. And we just started talking, and like she invited me to this event last February with JT in Dallas, which is where I live. You know, I live like an hour away. So it was easy for me to get to, and it was free. And so I went and I met all these people, and I was like, these are my people. Oh my gosh, these are my people. And that was the moment I realized I was like, I'm done with college. Like I'm over it. I'm tired of the debt and the, you know, all of it. Like, it's not for me. There are people it's for, but you know, everybody's different. So it's just not for me. But it's it's just a super weird story. Like I couldn't even tell you how it, other than the fact that we went to the same real estate school. I don't remember how we ended up crossing paths, because it was online, like it was self-paced. I
Mm.
think it might have, that's what it was, a Facebook group. So there was a
Oh.
deal that I came across, and I had, it was my first one, so I needed help, and I went posted in this Facebook group, and she ended up
Mm.
responding. And I thought she was the most annoying person ever, because she wouldn't leave me alone. And I was like, oh my gosh, for this lady, just leave me alone. Like,
Uh,
like I literally just asked that question, and now you're coming at me for not asking the question. It was just a bunch of stuff. And I had, uh, I had a lot of resentment towards her at the very beginning, but then I got to know her more, and she's just one of those really caring people. Like, she is
mm.
going to put a bubble around you, but then there's people like me, like I don't, like, don't even get close, like, um, with anything. So, she ended up not even being able to come to Florida, or I mean, come to Dallas. So I was there by myself, and that probably was the best thing that could have happened, because if not, I would have stuck by her the entire time.
Mm.
But I was kind of forced to go out and meet people, because I was the only one under 40 years old there.
Wow.
There's 200 people there, I think, something around there, probably 200. And that was the first thing I ever experienced with him. And then like a month later, I joined the group. And I actually got a loan from a family friend on Facebook, and talked to him forever. And I reached out to him, and I said, hey, like, look, whatever you want, I will give it to you. But I need to get in this group, and this is how much it cost. And, whatever you feel comfortable with, whatever, like, I just want trying to raise money right now so that I can join this group, so I can get on some solid ground. And I ended up, getting the money, and, a couple months later collapsed for 4 days. And then that's when Premiere was born. And so you just, it's a crazy journey, that's for sure. It's very unexpected things all the time. Um, and it's one of those things it's just mindset. And you have to just to continuously push through. And I would say, looking back now, all 21 years I've been alive, it's I had a different mindset, obviously, when I was 8 years old. But even when I was 15, 16, 17, like, it wasn't the same. It didn't feel the same. Like, there's something that flipped. And I don't know if it was being in a place where I wasn't protected anymore. I don't know if it was, I keep my therapist busy. So, but I don't know I don't know where it would have came from, but it was just this new type of drive of there was a lot of feelings involved of, like, I have to do this, like this, I have no choice. And once I got that momentum, JT always preached, like, from the first day I ever heard him talk, which was it was February 27th and 28th of last year. And I'm sorry, 24th and 25th this year was that was this year's dates. 24th and 25th of last year. And from that day, and I mean, even we literally had a meeting today, he was talking about, don't let the momentum fall. Because as soon as you let the momentum fall, you're done. And especially if you suffer with any type of, hyperactivity, or hypersensitivity to anything, those sensations are even worse. And I actually, Tony, I saw your message, and I was going to tell you, this leads me into what I was about to say. My whole LinkedIn is I just got done with my content team writing content for the next 4 weeks, and every single post is about mindset and people with ADHD. So we're shifting actually all of my content from customer experience, which is what it was. And I'm moving that more to like a long form thing, because it's just, there's not a space on social media to talk about it. But moving over to ADHD, because I think there's a lack of understanding there. And I don't feel like it's looked down on as if it's a disability. And I know I promise I'm going somewhere with this and it relates. It's a look down on a lot, especially in your younger school years. And I was bullied a lot through school. And surprisingly enough, all those people that bullied me want to be friends now. So it's kind of funny to see how the turn tables, like tables turn.
Mhm.
And back then I was, I'm the same person now. Like I was pretty loud when I was little. Would never stop talking. And maybe I wouldn't talk to other people, but I would never stop talking. Whether it's asking questions, I was the typical teacher's pet. Like, I got bullied a lot for that and stuff. And so I think a lot of those feelings and just, all the emotions built up as a younger kid. And, stuff with my parents that didn't, go the way we would want them to go, happened. And so there was, there was never a safe place. And there was a lot of trauma there that kind of sat. And it actually wasn't until the end of high school and my first year of college that I actually sat down with somebody and did a full diagnosis on everything. And was like, oh my gosh, this is actually really bad. And it was, even from all throughout my education and I was made fun of for oh my gosh, you can't focus and, you get mad so easy. And, it's like when you're happy, you're so happy. And, I didn't understand what they were saying. And I was like, I was never mad as a kid and I never get mad now. But, they were just picking at me to try to get me to blow up because they knew that I had something. And I will say, yes, the hard times are really, 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 really hard, but the good times are really, 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 really good. Just because that emotional scale, it's like a normal person has, that I like to say not normal, but, typical operating mind has anywhere between a -10 and a 10 on emotions. And so your -10 is, you're really, really angry. And then you have your 10, which is you're really, really happy. And then your 0 is just we're good. I just woke up and I'm, getting started for the day and don't talk to anybody, don't do anything. I'm, neutral, mediocre, right? ADHD on the other hand, you're -100 to 100, right? You can move in the matter of seconds. And that literally happened just a couple weeks ago. And I was super, super, super happy. And then something happened. And it's within just a few seconds, I felt the number just start dropping by 20 numbers at a time. And if it wasn't for me catching it, it would have gotten really bad. But that was I used to be able to do that. If I ever got upset, not angry, just sad. There's a massive advantage, especially in entrepreneurship and business and in life. I truly do believe this wholeheartedly to the core. People with some type of hyperactivity, hypersensitivity, whatever you want to call it, I don't care. But somebody's whose mind won't stop, that is a complete and total superpower. The hardest part, but if you don't figure out how yours works, right? It's not a book. Do not go read the definition and go read the how-to guide on YouTube on how to fix it, because it's not, because every single person's different, right? And so it's, you have to figure out how it works for you. And for me, it took me some time. It took me probably a year to figure it out, but I finally figured it out. And, people get mad about it because I've started thinking about me and how I am. And, it's a big shift because you sure don't want to hurt the ones that you love. And you sure don't want to make anybody feel you don't want to be around them. But it's listen, I care about you a lot. But I need this time to for me. And I would really respect that. I'd be grateful if I could just have that time. And then as soon as I'm ready, then I'll come do whatever you need. But right now, I just need to think. My brain wants to think and I can't, whatever else. But anyways, to what?
That's good.
It's just totally literally all my social channels is literally just my name. It is on my Zoom block. And all my LinkedIn content is ADHD stuff, because there's a massive need for content right now, and helping people, especially in the entrepreneurship path and in the business world, or even in just general life. There's a lot of misinterpretations on what ADHD and what they call mental illness is, but it truly is. It's a superpower. It is.
That's awesome. I love that too. I have one son that's autistic and one son that's ADHD. We have raised them both to believe that these are gifts, and make them superior, in their brain structure.
You were given them for a reason.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah. And I'm on the autism spectrum, myself. And so I've always thought that I'm doing a lot of executive coaching now. My soapbox is that your leadership team, do you have anybody who's, not neurotypical on your team? Because they will see things from a point of view that the other people won't see. They will catch mistakes before they happen. So I do fully believe that any team needs an autistic person on it in particular, because they just see their paradigm, they just see things the other people do not see, right? We're equally wrong, but we just, sometimes in our assessments, but we get to see, I cannot tell you how many times I've been the only person in the room that saw this particular vantage point. Everybody else was agreeing with each other. It was a chorus of yes men. And I'm like, hold on. That's going to be terrible. Yeah.
Well, let me tell you, there are 13 different ways that this could play out right now, and that one is not one of them.
Yeah, that's pretty good. Pretty good. Hey, I'd like to ask Tracy if she would mind unmuting, and she's shared with me one of her goals and dreams. And so, Tracy, if you would share that, and then Wade, if you could talk about maybe any questions she might have. Go ahead, Tracy. I think you're muted again, though. There you go.
Oh, no problem. Yeah, I just got home and saw that you were requesting. I was like, oh, wonder how long that's been up there. I was listening. My kind of idea for a business is I was looking at making a rage room, like a fury house type thing, where you could go and break stuff with a sledgehammer. So barring the legal questions of liability out of the way, because there's not much crossover in that department, I don't think. I was wanting to ask, what about the process of going through get a business license? Like, do you have to register with the city and kind of like give a presentation to them about what you're trying to do? How does that process really work for just getting started in your city kind of thing?
So honestly, I probably would have started a lot earlier if I didn't read those stupid articles online that made it sound a lot more difficult than it was. And I feel like we would have a lot more people out in society creating things that they are imagining if it was voiced correctly, but it's not. So it's very simple. Depending on, I will say this though, there are some local areas operate different than others. But what I can say in Texas is all we have to do is we have to file an LLC with the state of Texas. And I would imagine it's the same in every other state. South Carolina, for example, they don't care. I have a lot of friends actually now in business that do all of their business registrations in South Carolina because they don't even want your name or your address. They just want to know what this business does, and they just want to know, like, that's it, pretty much. What does the business do?
So where do you want the LLC, you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay.
And so a lot of people do it for like tax havens and things like that. They'll start and it protects them from lawsuits. It adds another level of protection, especially if you're doing stuff like in dangerous, like
smashing computers with a sledgehammer. Yeah.
Well, not that kind of danger, but high risk commerce. I haven't ever done that, but anyways, at least in Texas, as long as you file with the state, you're fine. And so I actually was telling Casey right before this, there was an idea I had like 45 days ago, and I believed in it a lot. And there's some people, I didn't get to tell them this, but there are some people that I work with right now and from my high school, and their argument with me since literally a year ago last September was that they could not do anything until they had a lot of money. And I said, that's not true. And so finally I came to the solution, and I got them to agree that I could start a business. Like, it so sounds like one of those YouTube guru videos, but start a business with no more than $5,000 and make it work. And so that's what we're doing with this new business. And I will file paperwork tomorrow, actually, because I finished everything today. And it's super easy. I would highly suggest. What state are you in, Tracy?
She's in Georgia.
Georgia?
Yeah, Georgia.
So you're lucky, because you live in a very business-friendly state. When you live in a very business-friendly state, documents are 10 times easier to deal with. So much easier to deal with. This is what I did when I started out. I do things differently now. But I would use something like LegalZoom, because they will walk you through every single step for one flat rate, and you will be completely compliant. They will give you every piece of documentation you need. They even send you a little like a packet that has a checklist, 14 points, a checklist, and they literally tell you everything you need to do. They file everything for you. It's all online. The initial filing process is they file everything with the state of Georgia. Then they file your documents with the IRS, and once they get all that done in like 2 weeks, they ship it to your house, or wherever you send it to. And then once you get in the mail, you open the binder, and there's a little checklist there, and it tells you sign this, S-22 form and mail it to this address. And then, read through your operating agreement and make sure everything is right, and then sign it, and then keep it for your own things. And now you're good. And if you need to charge sales tax, then this is who you need to go to, the Georgia State Comptroller's Office. And you're going to use your EIN number that you get from the IRS. So there's really only two parties that you'll really deal with, because those two parties report to everybody else. So I've never once dealt with a city here in Texas. I imagine Georgia's the same way, because Texas and Georgia operate very similarly. And a lot of people are scared of the local regulations, but they only real reason you would need, and I do know this for a fact, because I went through this process a few months ago and then ended up backing out of it. But the only real reason you would need to talk to the city about permitting and licensing and things like that is if you're doing a build within a municipality protected area, is what it's called here in Texas, at least. And it's basically like 5 miles within the city hall, and that's downtown city property. Even though the city doesn't own it, they still want to know, and they still want to approve what's going on. But other than that, there's really nothing else you need to do. If some cities, it's like, really, that's the two things you need to do. Go to LegalZoom and get yourself an LLC to protect you. And you can make where you live now the address for the business. And then number two is, whenever you fill that paperwork out with LegalZoom, they're a great place to start out with. Then once they get all that stuff figured out, then they'll ship you this box, this binder, and it'll have everything else that you need. And then all you have to do is sign this IRS form and send it back, and you're done. You're registered, fully compliant, unless you need to charge sales tax. Then you just go to the comptroller's office. But does that help? I hope.
That really helps a lot, actually, because that's what I was kind of wondering about, how to get registered as a business to get started. So I wrote that down, LegalZoom.
Yes, I'll send it.
LegalZoom. Awesome.
And LegalZoom is a very affordable way, and kind of an automated and assisted way of getting your LLC. You can do it without assistance like that, and it can be even cheaper, but I think with it, it's like 100. I mean, usually LegalZoom is like $150. I mean, it's just very inexpensive to do. Now,
Yeah,
with
it's
your
not much at
local
all.
business
I would
license,
offer a counterpoint to that, because I used LegalZoom the first time. No, I used InkFile, but either which way, you're just giving them the same information that the state wants. And it depends on, at least for Florida, it's very easy for setting up your business. Our online portal is very easy. If I had known that, I never would have bothered with LegalZoom, but I can't speak for every state. But for Florida, it was definitely, I finally got rid of LegalZoom. And the other thing I would say is be careful with using your home address. I just went and got a PO box from UPS, because depending on your state, the address for your business will be public records.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with you, Tony. And what I've heard from a lot of people that have, especially like people that do a lot of house flipping, and they might have like 50 LLCs, right? That they use. It's like, once you've done one, you can do the next one, in 5 minutes. You're just like, oh, okay, here.
Oh yeah, it's so
Boom,
easy.
Everything that the state, LegalZoom is going to ask you for everything that the state's going to ask you for. But like I said, for Florida, our portal is easy. It is super. I mean, it's just like going and filling out information in LegalZoom. I can't speak for every other state though, but so you might want to try it yourself first before. But
especially just like Georgia, like that goes for you too, Tracy. Georgia is one of those, they love business, and so they make it super easy. Texas is the same way. Our process is super easy. It's literally just in the comptroller portal. I am just a very anxious person, and so the first time I did it, that's why I just did it in LegalZoom, because it was like $200 and I didn't have to worry about anything. And just at least the first time, so I knew what documents I was supposed to have and get. And so if you are you okay with doing it by yourself, then yeah, just go to like the Georgia Comptroller's office and website, and then go find the portal and fill it out that way, and then just pay the filing fees. But if the first time you want like the reports and you want somebody to walk through it with you, LegalZoom is fabulous option. And then Georgia, I believe, is a non-disclosure state. I would check, because Texas is a non-disclosure state, and that just means that those types of records, like your business address, especially when it's residential, you can keep that private, unless you report it. It's like I don't know that part of the Georgia law, but here in Texas, at least how we are, we're non-disclosure here.
I think it is, but I don't know for sure. But
I would imagine
Georgia is pretty easy, to do these things. And it really gets into, you're protecting assets, and if you don't have a whole lot of assets right now, then you don't really have to worry about it too much. I mean, I would always, especially with a storefront business, or what we call a brick and mortar business, I would put an LLC on that. I've owned dozens of businesses, and I've only had a business license, and I've never had an LLC, but I've only had a business license in the local, municipality or the city. When I had a treatment program in Georgia, and it was in a storefront. And back when I owned a restaurant back in Illinois, whenever I was exactly your age, Wade, I started when I was 21 years old. But all the other ones, it's like, you don't really don't get bogged down in the paperwork. That's a very minor part of the process.
Yeah. And right? and everybody looks at them as the bad guys. I mean, just the whole IRS, right? We all look at the IRS like bad people, right? You have to look at it in a different mindset though.
Good.
They are people just like you are, right? They go to work every day. They leave work every day. They go home to their families. They go to sleep. They get up the next morning. They go back to work to go count your numbers. I personally I don't know why anybody would want to do that, but to each their own. But you have to realize that they're all normal people, especially people in like the Secretary of State office for Georgia, who would actually be the people filing the LLC paperwork. Like they're all normal people and they're not out to get you, because the more businesses that they have out in the state that are set up properly and doing the right thing, the more money they make. So they want you to do it right. And so they will be there for you. And if something ends up not being right, they'll contact you because you gave them an address, and they will send you a lovely little letter, and you will lose your mind the first time you get one. And then it's just like, scan this QR code and go fill in this number that you put in wrong, and you're good to go. So just remember, they are all normal people just like we are. And they are paid to sit there and help us, is really at the end of the day what they're there to do.
They work for us. Yes, that's true.
Don't be scared of them. Don't be scared of them.
That's really good. I had this similar, with zoning, because I have an Airbnb, is, you feel like you're going to go into this adversarial relationship with the zoning office, but they're the sweetest people on the planet.
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
They're the slowest, but they're very sweet.
Yeah. Well, initially, when we wanted to start the Airbnb in our backyard, the zoning guy, I asked 3 questions through his secretary because it was during COVID, and she got back with me and he said no, and no. And then he said, but he'll keep the appointment with you. And so I met with him the next week, for an hour and a half, and he walked me through how to get around each one of those no's. And we're open today. So
yeah, exactly. That's the same type of experience I've had before. Not all of them, but I've had something similar to that.
And I really think, Wade, this gets into like the mindset that we all have to grow through, particularly if we were not raised in like wealthy families that did this stuff all the time, and we saw that in front of us, is that we kind of grow up with these really poor mindsets, what I call poor man's mindsets, where we make excuses. And part of those excuses is, oh, the city will never let you do that. You don't even try, or the insurance is going to be too high, or all that complication, and you have to deal with the IRS, and you have to do all these, you don't know how to, form a corporation. You don't know how to do all these things, just all these negative things to shut you down. And all they are is, when you look back at them, they were minor little obstacles that you just had to learn to navigate around. And then you've done it. And then you look back and you go, wow, look at me today. I've accomplished all these things that I didn't really know that I could do. Yeah.
I mean, to kind of follow up on that, I get this like rush now. I love filing stuff like documents with the state, because it's like something else that I can, tie to the name. And I just love it. It's like, I'm so excited to file this stuff tomorrow. And it's the funniest thing when I meet people for the first time, and they're either my age or, I'm still 21. I still, live in a college town when I'm there. I'm traveling right now, but when I get back, I still live in a college house, and I have roommates and everything else. And they, one of them is my best friend. And so his other friends from back home will come over, and they'll be like, so like, you seriously, like, you have like state documents, like saying that you have an official company in Texas? And it's like, I hype it up because it's like, oh my gosh, yeah, like, they get lawyers involved. And I mean, it's like, it's crazy. I know they'll never want to get into business. And if it was somebody who wanted to get into business, I would just straight up tell them it took me 5 minutes. But these guys, they're engineers, and they don't want to do this. So I always hype it up, and I'm like, yeah, dude, it's like these lawyers, they're like so expensive, and all the paperwork. And I'm like, look at this binder. Like, we had to write all of this. Like, we had to
and you used LegalZoom for $200. Yeah.
I spent $200 and got expedited shipping, and it was done in 13 days. But yeah, I mean, it's a lot. Once you realize it's not so difficult, it just is made seem difficult by everybody else. That whole mindset behind it changes. You have to try it first to realize and tell your mind, oh, hey, yeah, this isn't bad at all. Then you'll be mad that you didn't start earlier, because then that's when you realize how easy it is.
Yeah, so true. So true. And I think it's one of those things. It's like this scary door that you've never been through. But once you get on the other side of that door, you're like, I could go through that door again, and there's no problem. Yeah, I could do it again and again and again. And I think that's where serial entrepreneurs and people that, acquire the mindsets, shifts that we're talking about and we're learning about in this coursework, it becomes so transformational, as now we're kind of a different person. And we're, I hear you saying, kind of reading between the lines is that you've had to kind of leave the ways of your parents and leave the ways of your other friends, or the people that that may be in a different mindset. And now you are, you hang around different people that have different types of mindsets to be able to help you. Can you talk about what, this had to be fairly recent since you're so young, but how did that work for you? Right? Was that challenging, hard? How did you begin the process? Where are you at in it now?
I mean, it's actually kind of funny enough. So about a month ago, I had a fallout with this roommate of mine, is my best friend. And we ended up getting to the point where we were just, when we met, we were the same person. And then, he decided that he wanted to live a certain way. And I decided I want to live a certain way. We didn't split ways, but we, at the end of the day, the word is we outgrew each other, right? There was too much of a difference in wants and needs with their relationship at the end of the day, to healthily keep going with it. And so, less than a month ago, I went through this, and I thought that day would never come. But it was really, really, really difficult to do and to not fight it. But he decided he wanted to, go move somewhere else and, not be surrounded by the atmosphere that I have, which is, I'm in meetings and there's people coming over to sign paperwork, and, I'm traveling, I'm out of town a lot, and I'm in different states, or, the kind of having to walk on eggshells, and, can't wake up late because, he won't turn your alarm off. So, there was a lot of things that just little things too. Then it just getting to the point where we outgrew each other, and we couldn't live together anymore, and we couldn't be that close knitted anymore. Right. Because it turned into him trying to make me him, and then me trying to make him me. And so it for sure that an initial unplugging action is difficult, but I can tell you I am much happier now, because I don't feel like there's a standard that I have to fit inside of and compile to somebody else. I don't have to adjust who I am during the day and the evening when I get home from the office because of somebody else around me. And now I can, I have my partners, and we have our board, and the JT group, and everybody like that. I can be around any of them, and I can be 100% my authentic true self. And it's crazy to see the difference in people that end up connecting in business. And everybody realizes that they're weird. I can't guess at the end of the day is what happens. I guess everybody just realizes that they're weird. And so there's no judgment. It's like,
wow.
Like, oh yeah, you like selling latex balloons? Okay. I sell giant inflatable tubes for movies outside. And then you have other people that are like, yeah, I sell bricks. And so it's just like everybody is so unique in their own way, and you appreciate it and you value it, because that person that sells bricks, he's good at stuff that I'm not good at. That's for sure. And I'm good at things. I'm selling rubber screens and renting them out to people than the guy selling bricks. And so even though you're so different, right? You connect in a different way, and it's like nothing you've ever experienced before. And you see the person for who the person is. You don't see the person for,
I'm glad we're talking about people, because the last question that I'd like to ask you is, you keep talking about having a board, right? And having a team. And so I think for a lot of people that are, particularly solo entrepreneurs, which you're not, but a solo entrepreneur just tries to do everything themselves, right? They're not necessarily building a business, they're building themselves a job, right? And they're just self-employed. So I think one of the telltale signs that is different, and maybe like with Tracy's ambition of having this Fury house and stuff, there's going to need to be employees. There's probably she could probably benefit, and we all could. How did you form a board, and how did you form teams, and how did that all come about, and how does that work in your life now? Because I would imagine your business is still pretty young. I would think it's not like rolling in it quite yet, but you have these teams of people that are, that are supportive of the business. How does that work?
I mean, the biggest thing I tell people here is like, I was extremely stressed out about it at the very beginning of like, I don't have people. Like this is me and that's it. And that's how it usually starts out, right? Especially as entrepreneurs, it's you're solo for a little bit, and that's okay, right? You'll grow more than you ever have in your entire life during that time. And
Amen.
you will feel so fulfilled because you're solving problems every day, right? And the most out of the blue things will happen, and you're like, how? Like, I didn't even know I was paying for this. How could it? How could this thing fail? I'm not even, I don't even use. And then it comes out of nowhere, and it's like, oh, yeah, that's not working. We need to fix this. And it was very chaotic, right? Because you've never experienced that before. But then you add all that stress on top of like, well, all these other companies and all these other people that I know have these people that work for them, and they have a marketing team, and they have, they have a board, and they have executive leadership, and they have the actual crews that go out and do the events, and they have the inventory, they have the warehouse workers, they have the delivery driver. I mean, when you start listing all of it off, it's like, holy cow, like that's like 8 spreadsheets. That's a lot of information that I've got to take in, and I've got to figure out how to make it work. But I started out just like most other entrepreneurs, and it was just me, and we built, like, it's just a constant, you're constantly just putting, brick on top of brick. And eventually, you stop counting the bricks because there's so many other things going on. And then you try to get down, and you look down, and you're like, holy cow, like I'm really far off the ground right now. Because you were just building. I mean, you were just one brick after the other. You're just, building that center block wall and building a good foundation. And I mean, we really, brand is a lot. I will say that. And that image, right? The image of the brand and the image of you as an individual, that's what did it for me, at least. Because people who had never seen us before, which was everybody, because we didn't exist, it had immediate like they immediately made it credible, and they were like, this is real. This is not some guy on the internet trying to sell me something that's going to steal my money and not show up. And it might feel weird at the beginning of all of that, of, you've got to almost put on an image of like, you're bigger than what you are, so that people will actually believe that you're capable of delivering what you promise. And then you get to the point where it's like, okay, now I need a person. And then you find that person. And then now this person's doing the work that you were doing. And so now you're doing the work that you should have been doing. And that was building everything. So now you start to grow exponentially faster. And then, and half the time you're like, oh, I need another person again. And then you find another person. Now you've got 2 people doing that work quicker, more efficient, and they're doing more of it. And so now you've got more revenue coming in. And then it just keeps going and going and going and piling up. And so back to the brand and the identity part of the person, there were within the JT network, and just even my local network that I had, and my social media network that I had, I knew of, a few people that I was friends with and followed or had met that were of higher authority, I guess you could say. They were just kind of experts in their field and they were good at what they did. They may have never been on the news, right? They may not be popular or famous or celebrity status, but I know that they're very good at what they do. And I literally just asked them, hey, like, I, just started this thing. Half of them knew that I had because they were on the calls where we were doing, funding raises. But the other ones, I was like, hey, I started this company and, I'm looking for some like kind of like a mastermind group. We meet once a month for like 30 minutes. And like, I just want to share what we're working on. And I want to hear any feedback that everybody else has. And like, maybe we can share information and, the 6 of us can, kind of bounce off of each other. And I would imagine everybody share information that somebody else doesn't know. And that's how we built the group. It wasn't a like, we need this right now. It was just branded in that way. And so if you go to the Premier site, you go to the board of advisors, it's branded in a way of, we have a very powerful board, which we do. If it was a true authentic board that was, had a IRS schedule.
So
but
not a board of directors, but a board of advisors.
Yeah. So we have a board of
Excellent.
advisors.
Yeah, great. So smart.
And so it's really just a mastermind group at the end of the day. And it helps with the personal branding. It makes the company look bigger. It makes the company look better, makes the company look more organized, more creative. Then you have the personal aspect of everybody that sits on the board. Can now use that as a personal reference for themselves for their businesses, and say that they are serving actively on this board.
And it's authenticity with Premier. It makes you seem more legit. Yeah, brilliant. I think we all should do that.
It's not I've explained it to some people before, and they've been like, "That sounds like such a scam." It sounds like nasty and trashy, but it's not, though, because what we're doing is authentic. We are meeting to have a conversation and share information, and we are meeting and having conversation authentically to provide value to one another. But we used Premier in an avenue, and we use the avenue of Premier to do that, because not only now are we providing value to one another through the knowledge and information we're sharing, but we've also now have the personal and the business branding that for everybody, because the people who sit on the board, right, in their own niches, they all have their certain specialty, and it's like you go read the page and you're like, how in the world are they friends with those people? And it's literally just like social media reach out. Like, that is huge. Consistency is key with that. If there's somebody you want to talk to on social media, just message them and just keep messaging them, because they'll eventually respond. That's a huge point right there. But yeah, I mean, it's really, it's all a stepping, it's a staircase, right? You can't go from step 1 up to step 10, because that's when you're thinking of, oh, I need all these people. It's like, no, you don't. You just need to get to the next step up.
Well, wait, I think that's absolutely brilliant, because I mean, big corporations have the funding and the structure and thousands of people working for them to be able to acquire a board of directors that are compensated and are there to advise the business. But when you're first starting, you don't have those kind of resources. And so I think you've brilliantly figured out how to acquire those. And it's give take, it sounds like, is that you're also giving into, helping them, too.
For sure.
And so it's a win-win.
Always add value before value is asked.
Good. Yeah, I like that. Yeah,
huge thing right there.
Yeah, I like doing that too. And masterminds, I'm a rare person. I grew up in the 80s when masterminds were kind of birthed. And my first mastermind meeting I was in was when I was, was literally 40 years ago. And when I was, I think 16, 17 years old, started attending these mastermind meetings. Now it's become part of my profession. Amy and I have been in a mastermind, together for 3 years now. It's so helpful, to meet with people and have that consistent meeting to, just go over even if you just have somebody to just hold you accountable to do what you said you're going to do in 30 days, it's huge. You'll make tremendous progress. Yeah. Which I'm hoping that this wealth program will evolve into. I think it'll be great to have it be a accountability and monthly mastermind meeting as well. So yeah.
Oh yeah, of
What
course.
Wade, this has been just fantastic. I really just appreciate you. One is just how motivating you are because of your age and all that you've accomplished so far. And I definitely see great things for you, in the future. I want to summarize some of the things that you shared that was just right along with what we're looking for here, is about how to optimize your income with where you are now, through customer service, and just trying to, have that perspective that Wade has, and how, you'll get internally promoted, like Wade was, into a fantastic position. And then it's really set him up for his, where he is now with his entrepreneurism and his business building. And, just even starting small, and then, being able to scale up. Your relationships and networking, we just talked about that. That's absolutely huge. That's something that people don't think about very much. Is it's just important who you know, and how you can use that to help other people.
And on that,
You
I will
have
note
go.
this one thing. It's one of my, I said it to somebody a long time ago, and it's like one of the favorite quotes I ever said. And it was, it's not, see, and I think the phrase is backwards. I do. I don't believe in the phrase of it's who you know. It really, at the end of the day, especially now, for me, especially, it's not who you know, it's who knows you.
That's good.
Because I can only meet and talk to so many people every single day. I can only reach out to so many people every single day. I can only run into so many people at the grocery store every single day. But everybody else around you, and the people that see things going on in your life or on social media or the business, whatever it is, right? Most likely they are not pursuing that constant building of relationships. And so if they know of you and they become aware of an opportunity, and they're like, this could be my key to this person, they just might come to you instead. And that literally, I mean, this is a prime example right now. Like, I wouldn't be here if Susan didn't know me. And it was the same thing with the other nonprofit event I spoke at 2 weeks ago. Like, I had no idea that was even a thing. It was somebody whose kid was going to it who reached out to me to see, because they were looking for somebody to come speak. So she reached out to me and introduced me to them, and then I went and spoke. So there's two examples right there of value added.
Yeah. So
in
important.
a way, yeah. So I would say that it just ties back to the brand thing, right? And so, anyways, I just wanted to say that.
Well, that's absolutely brilliant. There's a person in town locally here, a business owner, that I'm looking for an opportunity to connect with. And so I keep mentioning their business when I'm talking to other business people, for someone to say to me, oh, I know him. And then I'm going to pounce on it and go, I need someone to facilitate introduction. If I walk into his business and say, hey, he's not going to give me the time of day, I need somebody who knows him to connect me, with him. And someone that knows me, that someone knows him, and say, hey, Casey's a good guy, he's serious, he does good work, blah, blah, blah. You should talk to him. And then, I think that the sky's the limit at that point. I also find it great, because I've benefited from that so much in my life, that now I love to give back. When people are saying they've got a problem in their life, they're like, oh, I need this. I like, oh, I got a friend, that can help you with that. I'll connect you. Right. And that's a lot of fun for me. I'm not getting anything out of it, but I'm connecting them with the person who can help solve problems for them. Yeah.
I completely agree with you. It's I've had many situations like that. Sadly they didn't work out, but it's just perseverance and consistency at the end of the day. It really is.
Yeah. But they will work out, at some point when we keep on trucking with it. Amy, did you have something you wanted to say? Just sharing your video. you're muted, so okay.
Yeah. No, I was just gonna say, first off, Wade, my hat is completely off to you for being so young and to do everything that you've done in your life, and even now. but I heard like you have very high standards, and I've found myself in that same boat this week. I'm like, either I have really high expectations or standards and everybody else is just not living up to that. But I think I agree with you as far as like, if you go into a business, then you want that business to acknowledge you because you chose them to go there. So definitely agree with you there. But I'm going to have to hop off, but I thoroughly enjoyed listening to your story, and would love to connect with you outside of this, because I'm just going to go ahead and say you were like totally apex material. You need to be in our group, because everything that you talked about.
You got his email address, right? Because he's asking for a
Yeah.
link, and I bet you have a
Yeah, if you
affiliate
just want to
link
shoot me an
or
email,
something.
like we can reconnect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll send you an email.
Perfect.
That sounds great. Sounds great. Thank you, Amy. Appreciate that.
Thanks so much, Amy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You also hit about, like, you know, because you're starting now a retail, you know, in business, and you've had a series of other ones too, is that your diversified income streams are very important, you know, to entrepreneurs. I think a lot of us, you know, I have 6, and whenever COVID hit, 2 of them completely dried up, you know, just instantaneously. And I'm so glad that I had the other 4 to lean on it. You also mentioned about how, just my words now, but, you know, having empathy towards your customers, kind of seeing things from their point of view to give them the best experience. And, you know, just that's just a really good definition, I think, of professionalism, or the way that it should be. One of the things we didn't talk about is you actually have a curated list of products that you also sell. It sounds like you have been doing that maybe for a minute, because like you talked about, I think you said that bow tie is your product. Is that right?
Yep. It's part of the hyperactivity. I dip my toes into everything I possibly can.
There we go. I love it.
But I had an idea for the rest of these questions.
Yeah.
What if you and I did, because I feel like we could do deep dives on the rest of these questions.
Mhm.
What if you and I did like podcast show style episodes on them, where it was like 15-20 minute episodes, and then it would provide y'all more content to spread out over the rest
Excellent.
of the.
Yeah, very good. Very good. Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah.
Very good. So I think we'll wrap up for tonight, and then you and I can get together about that. That would be wonderful. And if everybody, we just really appreciate your time, Wade. I just appreciate your heart. I love that you love coming on here and sharing with other people, and you love sharing yourself, love sharing your ideas, and all within a heart of helping other people. And I think that's really a beautiful thing. And
Of
so
course. Well, thanks for letting me come on.
Yeah.
I really appreciate it.
Yeah, very good. Let's get together soon. So we'll end this now. Everybody say hey thank you to Wade, and we'll get off here. And any final comment or anything, Wade?
I was just gonna send my email in here one more time. That way, if Tracy had any more questions, she could email me.
Oh, excellent. Very kind of you.
So if you
There we
need
go.
anything, just
I
let me know.
appreciate that.
Of course.
And thanks for coming and talking to us, Wade.
Of course. Thank y'all so much for being here and listening and being engaging.
Yeah, that's great. All right, everybody. Good night. Appreciate you.
Thank y'all.
There's Tony giving a wave. Out.